I just started watercoloring about 7 months ago, and I've been doing a lot of Christmas cards lately, and making trees is probably one of the most infuriating processes I think I've ever tried to learn. However, I found a really unique way to make Christmas trees, and this just came on my own. I was just kind of playing around and saw how this could work and thought, my goodness, these trees look so amazing. If you are an absolute, utter new beginner to watercolors, meaning you've never done it before or you've dabbled in it before and never really took it up, this is for you. I'm going to start with what I have here. First of all, I have watercolor paper. Now this is pretty cheap. I got this at Michael's. If you're starting out with watercolors, you're going to find yourself incredibly frustrated if you don't have the right paper. The right paper is everything, and I mean everything. I will use the cheaper watercolor paper in order to practice, and practicing is key as well. There's just a difference in the way that the paper absorbs the water and allows you to blend. It's also going to give you a different look to your watercolors. Your watercolors, if you have like little wells of water, it's going to dry differently on different paper. This here is incredibly good paper. This is the Fluid 100 cold press finish. This is 6x6. It's 100% cotton. 100% cotton is what you want if you're going to start doing more professional watercolor art. Watercolor brushes are important as well. You really want a brush that is specifically for watercolors. This one here is not. It has more of a tougher bristle. Love these. These have become my favorite brushes. These are the Dugato squirrel hair, and this is the number 4, and this is the 0. And then I also got the Princeton brush as well, and this is the number 6. Okay, and then this brush here I got at Michael's. This is the Artist Lofts. This is a mop brush, and it's a half. Like I said, this has more of tougher bristles than these that are going to just kind of pop right back up at you. And then these brushes here, you can see I've used these a lot. This is actually still wet a little bit, but it'll get a little fluffy. And then once we put it in water, it'll look more like this. I also have my heat tool here to dry the paint right away so that you can continue working quickly without having to air dry. You can use a hair dryer, which I was using for quite some time. Then I'm going to be using the Paul Rubin tube paints, which I also got on Amazon. Now you can use tube paints right out of the tube, but here's the thing. You're probably going to end up using more paint when it's fresh out of the tube like this than you would if you let it dry, like you can see here. And once you wet it, then you can see that you'll get a little bit more bang for your buck that way. If you use it like this, you're probably going to end up using more than you probably should. Put them in the tray first and then let them dry. These actually dry really, really fast, which I like. And then you can start using them. And the way that you would just kind of bring these paints back to life is take a spray bottle and go ahead and just spray them. I just use regular jars, jam jars, salsa jars, whatever. I don't get too fancy. I do get fancy with my pitcher though. I love my pitcher. Now I have 3 cups, and the reason why I do that is because I don't like to constantly refill up my jars all the time. So I have one that I'm going to not fill up so much. This is going to probably be my cleaning. This is what I'm going to use to actually clean my brushes in between colors. This is the one I'm going to use when it's very clean. I have a clean brush and I want to start a new color. So what I do is I clean the brush with this one first, then I dip it in this one second to make sure that the brush is completely clean and doesn't have any other color on it. I like to start with this kind of paper so I can just get a good practice before I start doing a lot of my other stuff. You just want to practice before you start really jumping into things. So I'm going to go ahead and wet my brush, and I'm going to use this big brush here too. I'm going to use the Degado Squirrel Hair, the 4, and I'm going to get it really, really wet. I'll show you here. I'm going to get it really wet, but then I'm going to also just get some of that water off of that brush. And then I'm just going to dab it on a towel or something real quick. Then I'm going to pick my color. And I think I'm going to go, I'm going to try this light green here. And I'm not going to get too technical with you on the colors on this. Just because, you know, if you are a beginner, you probably just don't care. You're just here to see how to make these Christmas trees, and that's okay. All right. So I got enough paint on here, and I'm not going to do anything else with it, but I'm going to show you how to do this. Really, really super simple. I'm just going to dab it like that. Okay? Don't worry about that little spot either. Now I'm just going to keep dabbing. Okay? Super, super simple, guys. Super simple. Try it again. I'll show you again. Just taking the tip, and I'm not going all the way sideways. I'm just kind of tilting my brush at an angle, and I'm just tapping, tap, 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 tap. Now this one isn't turning out that great, but we can always go in and change it to give it a little bit of those points that we're looking for trees like that. Okay, now the next thing you can do is sideways. But what you want to do is you want to get that top, right? You want that point on the top. So let's get the point on the top. So now I'm going to go sideways. I'm going to make this a big fat tree. Okay, and I'm going to go back up here. See? Super, super simple. All right? Then you just go down all the way, making it into that triangular shape. I'm going to take another practice sheet, show you another technique that I came up with. This time I'm going to take the Princeton Round 6. I cleaned the brush in this one, but then I took it afterwards and made sure that it was clean in this one. You can see there's a little bit of tint of green left in it. So now I still have this clean cup of water here. So I'm going to take this brush here, wet it down a little bit. I'm going to take that same green. Okay, so with this one, I'm going to do almost the same thing that I did with the wider brush, okay? But I'm going to just tap it on the top, and then we're going to go like this. Now you can see I'm going to get a little bit of layers here. But I'm really just kind of making like little footsteps almost. But you can see as I start going down a little bit more, I'm losing a little bit of the paint because my paintbrush is starting to dry up a little bit. So I can just kind of stick this in the dirty water because I'm using the same color. So I can stick it in that dirty water and just go back into that color. And then I can actually make some highlights on here or shade it in towards the bottom. But then I also can go like this and go on the other side. See how simple that is. Okay? All right. So the next one I can do, and I'm going to do it on the same sheet here. I'm going to take my smaller squirrel hair brush, and this is a 0, and I'm going to get this one wet. These are fun trees. The next one I'm going to do, they're kind of more abstract, little art deco. I'm going to take the same color. I love these. You want to make sure that with these, you have enough water to kind of drip and to blend. So I'm going to actually add just a little bit of water. So as you can see here, I'm going to actually take the second cup that I dip in, and I'm just going to barely put it in there just to get some more water on there while I also have the color on my brush. So I'm just going to do the one where I was just kind of tapping. Okay. But I'm going to show you how I do this here. I'm going to go just one here, and then I'm just going to do more here. And you can see I'm kind of touching a little bit with the other ones. Okay. And you can do that the other way. Okay. So we'll start here, but we'll go like that, like this. And we want to make sure that maybe it touches a little bit. You can make it to where they don't touch. And then, of course, you just want to change the top a little bit so it's not so pointy like that. But that's actually kind of fun. So let me just show you again. I'm going to do one up here. I do it like this, like that. Okay, just super fun. And I'll show you what I can do with these afterwards, all right? So now I'm going to let this dry while I get a good piece of paper out. This paper here actually comes in a block. So it has the rubber glue on both sides. So I can actually just paint right on the block. I'm going to use the squirrel brush again, the big one. And I'm going to use a blue over here. And I got a lot of water on here, and I want a lot of water because I'm going to do this. Now you can already see how different the paint is holding on to this paper. And this is the 100% cotton. And you can go over it like that too. All right, but now I want to bleed some colors into this. So I'm going to clean my brush off really good and make sure that I have a very clean brush. So I did it 3 times. All right, and I'm going to take this red, I think. Got a lot of water on it still because I want my colors to bleed into each other. So now I can just do this. Okay. And again, it's just the tapping technique here. All right, but you can see how it's starting to bleed together. I'm going to put another one over here because I don't like to waste my paint. And do that. Then I'll do another one over here, and a little bit lighter, of course, because I don't have as much paint on it anymore. But I want them to touch so that the colors can start bleeding together. As you can see, the blue is going to start seeping into this one a little bit over here as well. Now we're going to see the difference when I dry it, what difference the paper is going to make. So let's go ahead and get my heat gun. Okay, so remember this is the 100% cotton. And now this is the practice paper. So you can see the difference of how the paint actually looks next to each other. This kind of looks a little bit chalky, and this really has a lot of depth of color to it. So it's really quite a difference you can see in this paper of how your paint is going to turn out and how it's going to dry differently. Now let me show you what you can do with these. Real fun. I'm going to take my Micron liner. This is a 0.5. I'm going to show you something really cool that you can do with this if you want to add some definition to these trees. So we can do like a little doodle. And what I do is I just do little triangles here. And of course they get bigger as you go down to the bottom. So you can do something like that. With this one here, you can do something like this. Okay, and then give yourself a little top here. Now with something like this one here, which didn't turn out all that great, you can still add the definition to it. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to do lines to go down to kind of define a tree. And you can actually go over those again, just kind of give it a lot of definition as a tree. Happy little trees, as Bob Ross once said, a million times really. Happy little trees. So as you can see, we can just take these blobby little trees and make them into something really beautiful. Now I could have gone sideways with these, like that. We can still do that. Look, I'm still adding a lot of texture to this tree, and I'm not doing it with paint. Okay, and then with this one here, I did a card where I just kind of went over the triangles. People seem to really love those. I wasn't quite sure if people would like them, but gosh, the people that I did cards for went crazy over these trees. I did them in the pastels, so I'll show you what the pastels are going to look like on good paper with this, but this is what you can do. Just super, super fun Christmas trees. So simple. Now look, I can take this little splotch here, or I could have made a star out of it. The other thing you can do is put some ornaments on it, make it really colorful. We'll put some red. I'm just going to take this squirrel hair again, and I'm just going to put little dots on. Nothing really crazy. I don't want them too big, too small. I want them just enough to define that this is a Christmas tree. Okay, now with this one, I might do bigger ones. I'm just going to do big blobbies here. I don't know the technical terms of watercolor blobs, so blobbies. That's what it's going to be called, blobbies. Okay. Simple, right? If we're talking about Christmas trees, a lot of times people associate pine trees with Christmas trees. Pine trees are the bane of my existence in watercolor. All right, make sure I get the right side. So for this one, I want a brush that's going to have a little bit more better tip and not so fat and fluffy. And this is the Princeton 6 again. Now, I really hate doing this, but I'm going to show you how I do mine. Because everybody else's looks so great, and yet when I try it, it doesn't come out that wonderful. So I'm going to go ahead and make my line, and I'm barely touching the paper. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scribble. I'm just going to be like up and down, up and down, up and down. Then I'm going to do it over here too. Really super simple, right? Super simple. Another way to do it, take your line again. Again, I'm barely touching the paper. And then you kind of just go back and forth. Just like little zigzaggies and leaving some spaces open. Now, this is the technique that I see a lot of artists doing, and I still feel like my trees don't come out very good. So I don't know if you think it's good. Well, awesome. I'm glad you think so. But I have a really hard time with these trees. Now, the other thing I want to show you is I'm going to take this kind of tough bristle. It's not as tough as some other bristles are. Like this one here has really tough bristles. The plastic. These, see, just pop right back. These still have a little bit of bend to them. So I'm going to get this wet a little bit. You're going to love this one. This is going to be the one where everybody goes, oh, that's so simple. And it's really difficult because you got to make sure that the water is just right on these. And so I just kind of dab it a little bit on the towel. And then I'm just going to, I'll show you how I'm going to put this on. I'm just going to dab it on the tip of the brush. Get good color. So now I'm just going to start with the top. And I can turn the brush around every once in a while if I want to get a different effect. And look at that tree. Isn't that cool? Then you just go back over it. So simple, right? like really, truly simple trees. It's really not that hard, you guys, to make your own Christmas cards, and I should be telling you this so that you'll order my cards instead, but I just think it's fun to know how to do some really cool, fun techniques. So now what I can do is I'll add a little bit of decorations, and I think I want to go, and I'm going to do it while it's still wet with some red. I'm just going to add it right in here so that it starts bleeding into the colors. I love that. So see, as it's still wet a little bit, add some color to it. You'll see it start bleeding into it. So fun. I love watercolors so much. So much fun to work with. All right, maybe one more right here. This one you're going to enjoy. I want to get this brush here because it's a little bit more fluffier. So this is going to give me a little bit more leeway for what I'm going to do. So I want to make sure that it's really wet. And then I'm going to take it into color. I'm going to take this minty green here. And now I'm just going to tap my brush and make some little splatters all over the place, but I want to kind of keep in the shape of a tree. So I'm going to try to stick around that triangular shape, as you can see. And then I'll just kind of go around the edges. All right, this is so fun, guys. Then you just want to wet your brush again and dry it off a little bit. And now you can just start making your tree this way. This one's really fun too. You can do it any way you want. The up and down or the sideways. You can see I can do it either way. Fun, right? Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some decorations to it. Make the red, and I'm going to do it the same way. I'm going to make sure that my brush has a lot of water on it. I'm going to get the red and put a lot of paint on, and I'm just going to splatter. Now I'm going to take this gold, and the metallic paints are really kind of temperamental, so it gets a little runny, as you can see here. And now I'm going to do the same thing with the gold. I'm going to go up a little bit higher here. Another way to make a Christmas tree. That's really fun. It might be a fun way to do a Christmas tree with your kids. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you learned something from it. Have fun with watercolors. They can be incredibly frustrating. They can definitely not work with you and do what you want them to do, but keep trying. Experiment. That's what I did for these trees. I was just kind of experimenting with my brushes and wanted to see if there was something I could do to make Christmas trees a little bit more easier and simplify my life and my cards. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. Yes, a thumbs up. Please make sure to comment below and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. And for those of you who have subscribed, I love you. You have been so great and so faithful and so supportive to me this year. And I'm so grateful for every one of you. All right, Merry Christmas.